Next up, we're gonna create the selection of the scooter and the bike. And for that, I just searched for two PNGs of a motorbike, which I'm swiping away, and the scooter I'm actually picking, selecting, and then comes down from the air. So these two PNGs I saved. Now I'm going into the projects and importing them into After Effects. So I created actually screenshots and then just isolated them. Here we call them screenshots. Boom. Really important to keep a good structure. Nice. And now we're going to create the screens where we choose them from. So I'm thinking about creating one window which flows here, where I can select. So this is going to be into a new comp. We call it scooter selection or scooter window. I want it to be, I think 4x5 works for that. So 1080 by 1350. And okay, nice. In here, we drag the motorbike and the scooter. You can select both, hit S for scale, and scale them down, something like that. And now we're gonna create a swipe effect. So first of all, we have the motorbike, so the scooter we position a little bit more to the left, like that. And we'll link both to a null object. Here, we call this one slider. Select both and parent them to the slider. Nice, open up the slider position and go a little bit forward in time and move the slider to the left. And here, the scooter we can actually make a little bit bigger so it matches the motorbike, something like that maybe. Boom. Now we're gonna smooth the keyframes. Select the keyframe, go to the graph editor, and here we are for the swipe. So boom. We can make it a little bit faster, I think, and drag it a little bit later in time. So this is looking good. We're gonna select both of them, activate motion blur, the layer in the comp, and now this looks pretty good. And it's time to create a window frame. What you're gonna do is with the rounded edges tool and draw a window, maybe something like that. And we're gonna fill it with gray. I think something like this grayish looks good. We're gonna call this a background shape. Move it all the way to the bottom and go into the rectangle path and increase roundness. So it looks something like that. Nice. And now we can see it should be get cut off here. So we just duplicate pretty much the background shape and call it a mask. And then for the scooter and for the bike, we're going to the modes here, toggle switches, toggle modes. And for the matte, we choose the mask. For the matte, we choose the mask, both ones, and easy like that. It's just gonna happen in the frame, which looks definitely more, more realistic. Nice. And for the background shape, we're gonna set the opacity to around 50. This should work for us. Now we go into the main comp, the comp here, and drag in our window we just created, the scooter window, below the hand rotoscopes. Yes, and now make it a 3D layer. And now we can copy and paste the position of the solid we created earlier in 3D space to match the 3D space position of the window. So open up position by pressing P, same on the scooter window. Make sure you make it a 3D layer before. And now paste the position onto it. Nice. Now it's sticking here. We can increase scale. Maybe something like that. we can make sure we're gonna match the dimensions here. This is looking good. We can turn off the solid and see how it's tracked and how it's going to look. Yes. Okay, that's nice. The timing is not 100% on point yet, but it's no problem because we need that swipe earlier. Lower the quality to have a smooth playback. And we need the swipe, the slider, to happen faster. So we bring the keyframes closer together. They have like a quick slide. Yes, this is looking good. A little bit too early. So yeah, here is really important to match the timing. So it looks like I'm really interacting. Now we're selecting the scooter and boom, the scooter comes down. Nice. Okay, so now to create a focus more on the window we have created here, we can blur the background. So we create a new layer, adjustment layer, call it a background blur. And so we're gonna add the camera lens blur, maybe go up to 15. This looks something right. And make sure it's below the scooter window. And here we go, dropping the resolution. And I think the blur should come in as soon as, yeah, I think the blur can actually be there from the beginning. And now we're gonna choose the scooter. And yeah, now the blur opacity can go down to 0. We can cut the clip, delete the end. Yes. Boom. And we can maybe animate the position. So when we choose it, it goes all the way up out of the frame. Maybe we open up the second view for that. Maybe the front view works. Yes. And we drag it all the way up. Something like that. Boom. This looks not too bad, but not really realistic. Boom. Maybe we try something else. So we select it, and how about a twist? Now it's rotating, so we are going for a Y rotation. A Y rotation going from 0 to 1 rotation. Smooth the rotation, something like that. Maybe a little bit earlier. And while the rotation happening, we are going opacity 100 to 0. Something like that. Boom. That's pretty cool. Well, actually, we need to make it go upwards. I think adding the motion of the scooter, of the window going upwards, going to help to increase that cool effect. Maybe already something like that. Yes, let's see how that looks. Boom. That looks unrealistic as hell. So let's try just going up a little bit. So here, be up here. Yeah, that's better. We're gonna smooth it And also we want to activate motion blur on that layer, so it actually shows motion blur when it's twisting, something like that. Boom. Yes, that's way better. So I think this looks pretty realistic. Please fit the frame. Yes. Actually, we can move the opacity keyframes so it's going up like that. Yes, I think that's pretty cool. So we are selecting the car. Boom. Nice. Here we can also add some more elements. Maybe we can add some small borders here. So we're gonna duplicate the shape and call it outlines. We go up here to fill to none, and the stroke to consistent color. Maybe white. Yes, so it looks, maybe white is too dominant. So let's choose a brighter gray. Grayish? Yeah, that looks nicer to me. That's looking pretty good. Okay, and I've seen in some of the on the previews, usually you have like a white, kind of white bar at the bottom. So we create a new shape. I think it looks something like that. I think we should set the fill here for one color and go for white. I think there's always this white bar, something like that at the bottom of the windows. Yes, that's cool. Nice. We can even change the background here, the background shape we have, maybe to a brighter gray tone. Something like that. Yes, that's way better. So the motorcycle is pretty dark, so we need some colors to pop. And yeah, that's looking pretty good actually. Nice. It's all about the details as always, and try and error. I want to take you with me on that journey. You see, I spent a lot of time tweaking and trying to make things look perfect. So yes, I think that's pretty nice. Boom. Here when I'm selecting the vehicle, this one here, I think the scooter should pop for a second, like change the size. So in here we are selecting the scooter, keyframing the scale, going up, just like a bump, like a small bump, maybe up to 70. Let's move the keyframes, ease out. This one, easy in and easy ease. Yeah, this looks good. Let's see if the timing fits the motion. Oh yes, we need to earlier here, like way earlier. Okay, here. Oh no, we're not in the comp yet. Okay, there we go. Here we need it. Yes, that looks organic. A little bit later maybe, and faster. Sometimes you just get confused with all these comms, and right now we don't even have a lot of comms. And if it gets more and more complex, it's getting crazy. Boom. Later, even later. It's just like a really small detail. I love these details. Yes. Well, it feels like now swip, zoom. Nice. That's cool. Boom, strip, bam. Let's go. 1 second, we need to go to our outlines again and make them a little bit darker in this case, because we actually lowered the shape here. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. Love that. Nice. Okay. And the last thing I would do is just adding the names of the bikes. So adding the names, I think yeah, here it is. So this is the Matte Pearl Morium Black. Let's add a text layer in that comp here. Text, boom. Well, that font actually looks pretty good. Pretty good to me. Let's center it. And maybe go for a size 60. Yeah, 60 looking good to me. And here the align window, you can always center text, which is pretty nice. And now it's not changing. It should change with the scooter. So we can just parent this text layer to the slider and activate motion blur on the layer as well. Boom. Nice. We're going to copy that text and we are centering it again. And now we are changing it to the name of the scooter, which is the PCX 125. Like that. Center it again. And now we parent it to the slider as well. Yes. Boom. I think we can actually use a white color for that. That looks more realistic. Have some contrast for that font as well. Choose the color white. Boom. Jump into the main comp. You see the font should be cut off as well. So we need to set the track matte for both fonts like we did before to the mask. So it gets cut off here. You see, before it just got out of frame, but it has to leave the frame when it leaves the window. So we choose the mask, boom, simple as that. Chew, nice and clean. I feel like this is looking pretty good. I'm thinking about adding, let's see how that looks. What do you think about adding another shape? Actually being a graphic designer right now. So let's add another shape, rounded edges. We call it background shape bike. We are going to increase the roundness again. Put it below the text. And make sure it's centered. And we can change the color to something darker. Something like that maybe. Yes. And now open up the align window again. Make sure it's centered. I think just gives that extra touch. To do the same here again. We can actually just link that background shape bike again to the slider. And for the track matte, we use the mask and we activate motion blur and we create the same one for the PCX. Maybe we can just copy that. Yes, Command D, duplicate, and then deselect the parent link and center it again. And now we open up the scale. We uncheck the linking here, the constraint proportions. Uncheck that, and we are decreasing. Looking not so clean. So let's copy the color code here and create a fresh new one. Boom. Boom. Increase the roundness. Boom. Boom. rectangle path, roundness, yes. Set it below here, activate motion blur, make sure it is centered again, boom, a little more up, parent it to the slider, and for the track matte, we're gonna use the mask again, and this is looking good. I like that. Just gives that extra touch. Okay, that's pretty cool. If it would be that simple, choosing the vehicle would be pretty nice. So to sell the effect even more, I thought about adding some like a bar. What do you think about adding? Maybe we should screenshot it from our phone. So we have our phone and we create a screenshot. Boom, on screenshot here, go to photos. All right, sending it to my MacBook. And I think by adding this bar, we're going to enhance the quality. So first of all, we open up the desktop. Here everything got saved, the downloads here, and we drag it into screenshots. I'm calling this one apps. Apps, and drag it into screenshots, and from here we drag it into After Effects. I would create a new comp and set the composition settings to decrease the height for sure. Maybe something like that, so we only see one bar, 300. I think it's pretty good. Let's recenter it. Yes, I want that bar. That bar looks good. And now we just need to like mask it out, and we create another shape again. Just the size, like this size is probably gonna be good. And going into the rectangle path, roundness. Try to match the roundness as good as possible. And we call it mask. And for the track matte of the apps PNG, we are using the mask. Boom. That's how fast we just created this bar. And in the main comp, we just drag in the apps. We make it a 3D layer. We can actually cut both of them here because we don't need them afterwards. And now we want to have the apps sitting above the scooter window. So we just pretty much copy the position. This keyframe is good. Copy it to the apps. There we have it. Increasing the size and placing it above. So this looks more like we are actually having an interface. Increasing it even a little bit more, like that. For the rotation, orientation, we want to change the X, but not too heavily, so it still looks right. Now it can actually disappear because we are like picking the machine. We can maybe scale it down to 0. So here is it at 0. We're gonna smooth the keyframes. Boom. Yes. So there's a lot of interaction happening. Boom. Nice. That's pretty cool. I think that's solid. We can even set the opacity to around maybe 80. So it's not so present, but still there. Yes. This is looking pretty cool. So I think for the beginning, we are good to go. So now we have to think about what we can do at the ending here to make it look cooler. I think about setting up like maybe here where our slide unlock, like maybe unlock the scooter, unlock the scooter and go. Boom. Let's go. Yes. And here unlock. Maybe we'll do like an unlock animation. Let's think about that for a second. Gonna create a new folder, animations, and create a slider again. Slider unlock. Yes. We create a shape again. You can actually double click it and scale it down a little bit. Change the roundness. So something like that. And we call this one the bar. We can create, with the ellipse tool, we're gonna create a circle, something like that. But we need the fill color white. Increase the size a little bit, and we can animate it going from, I think I go from right to left. So we're going from here, animate it to go to the left. Something like that. Just to see how it's feeling. Yes, that's pretty cool. We can turn on motion blur and now go into the comp here and see where I'm sliding around here. Bring in the unlock slider, make it a 3D layer, and now we can use the position of the scooter track we've created earlier, turn off that one, and paste the position onto our slider unlock. This goes into the right direction, I think. We can still play around with the position and see how we can make it look better so it fits more into our scene. Yeah, maybe should something like that. Okay, nice. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead with that. All right, folks, this is looking pretty good. So we're having the slider here, but I just saw something at the beginning I wanted to fix, because this motorbike, the Matte Pearl Morion Black, should come in or slide in a little bit. So I thought about making this one slide in a little bit. So I'm moving it out, smoothing the keyframes, and then I'm actually moving the keyframe out so it just smoothly comes in. Okay, maybe a little bit later. So maybe something like that. Let's check. So you see that little difference, it smoothly comes in. Even a tiny bit later makes a whole difference, because if we're cutting in, boom, maybe something like that. Yes. So the bike is coming in, we swipe into the next one, picking this one, boom. This is making sense, you know? Boom. Good job. And here we have the slider, and the slider should start a little bit later. Maybe something like that. Nice. All right. And we can actually make the slider fit in more into the scene by setting the blend mode maybe to screen. Nope, that doesn't work. but we can lower the opacity maybe to 85%. But let's also try just to lower the opacity of the bar, maybe 90. So how does that look? Yes, that's pretty cool. I'm just wondering for the position of the bar if that is correct. Maybe even a little bit more out and scale down. Something like that. I would love to match my hands here. Yes, something like that. But a little bit up, and the animation should happen faster. So drag them together. And also maybe even faster. Pressing speed ramp here. Like that. Nice, that's looking pretty good. Boom. Boom. And here we can actually make it pop up. So we animate the scale. Here we should be at 0, and then we create 0 to I think 400 anything, and then boom, tack, boom. And this one can happen a little bit slower. And also here we can actually increase the size of the dot. Like I'm actually maybe also make it a little bit bigger, something like that. Yes. Yes. And boom. Happened a second later, like a millisecond later, like that. And also because this is the dot we're having, I'm also increasing the size of the dot here, so it feels like when I'm touching it, it's increasing, and I'm sliding it to the other side. So here we at 116, so let's increase it here. But first of all, we need to center. Okay. So since we already animated the position, we do need to copy these keyframes in case of centering the anchor point. Because if we center the anchor point, if we change scale and anything, it's coming from the center and not from another point. Like this is the anchor point from where all the transformation is happening. So let's paste it again. But now it doesn't work because we changed the anchor point. So we just quickly do the animation again, but it's really important for our animation to have the anchor point centered. So let's just smooth the curves again and just double check if it's still aligning with our motion. Okay, we need to do it way later. Or no, earlier. Wait 1 second. Well, it's getting late here. Yes. All right, a little bit earlier. Nope, that was too early. And it should happen like really fast, something like that. And now let's do what we originally wanted to do, scale the keyframes up like that. Maybe going down to 0 again at the end. Let's see how that looks. That's pretty cool, but it needs to happen later. Something like that maybe. Like this really fine tweaking, man. Getting these milliseconds right, but I really wanted to feel like I actually have an Apple Vision Pro. So yes, that's pretty cool. That's what I'm looking for. Nice. Boom. This feels really organic. Okay, and the slider is actually to unlock the scooter. So nice. So let's unlock the scooter. And we need actually like a lock to unlock, you know? So let's go to YouTube. So let's see if we have anything on YouTube we can actually use sometime. Yes. That's pretty good. But I don't know how to, can I download shorts? Now I'm interested. Yes, yes, get me this clip right next to the green screen. Let's see if that works. It seems like it worked. Wow, that's cool. Full resolution. Bro, it's working for me. Let's see how it looks in the animation. Yes. And we can also invert that layer. So it should turn white. Yes. Awesome. Yeah. That's pretty clean. Let's throw it into our main comp. Boom. Boom. Here it is. Here we can see it. We might need to give it a background. Yes, I think we might need to give it a background. So let's maybe use the same background as we did for the scooters. So we might can just copy outlines. This one we need as well, and the background shape. Yes, let's copy it into our animation and place it like right behind it or something like that. And what we also want to do, check. Yes, that's looking not too bad. This one goes all the way up to the top. And we might need to scale up everything a little bit. Yes. That's looking good. I'm happy with that. Click. Nice. Okay, let's see how that looks. Nice, looks pretty good. Yeah. Now we need to make it a 3D layer and place it right here in the 3D space. So this is the last one. We have still activated, copy the position and paste the position onto our lock. Looking good. And maybe also the orientation. Let's see if that helps. Yes. Yes, yes. Just doesn't feel right. So let's correct the scale a little bit. We can even place it closer to our bike. So let's go for the left view and select the layer. And now we're going to place it a little bit more forward. Yes, maybe something like that. This is looking pretty good, man. I love that. Here we can actually add a little blur as well. So when they maybe here also the background could turn greenish or something. Let's make it turn green, like slightly green. Boom, here. So we can do this by copying our, now we split our background shape, and here we set the fill color to like a dark, yeah, like a darkish green, something like that maybe. And then it's unlocking. Yes, it's giving that little bit of extra touch. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Nice, boom. Yes.